Wringer Chapter 27. Nipper was home that day, waiting at the windowsill, but Palmer was too worn out to be relieved. All the stress and weirdness of the day had left him totally wrecked. It was all he could do to drag himself down to dinner. Vacation was over a month away. He couldn't imagine lasting that long, but he did. Somehow, day by day, he got through it. Each morning as he left the house, he faced two problems. And no matter how well he solved them that day, the next morning they would still be waiting there for him again. His first problem, how to avoid Nipper on the way home from school. His second problem, how to keep the guys from turning against him. As he had discovered the first day, getting into trouble could both detain him after school and boost his popularity with the guys. So he spit on the blackboard, he talked and laughed in class, he took off his shoes and socks, he hid in the map closet, he tickled other students, and, on Monday of the last week before summer vacation, he tickled the teacher. "Palmer!" she shrieked. "What has gotten into you?" She'd been asking him this question for some time now. He was running out of answers. "Puberty," he said. He didn't know what it meant, but he'd heard that it happened to teenagers, and that it made them batty, at least in the eyes of grown-ups anyway. "Try again," she said. "You're too young for puberty." "I'm very mature for my age," he said. "Good," she said. "Then you're mature enough to stay after school for a week." That would take care of the rest of the school year. Palmer forced himself not to grin. The teacher tickle made Palmer immensely popular, not only with the Beans boys, but throughout the entire school. His reputation soared as a kid who did crazy things. Students broke out laughing when they saw him in the hallways. They egged him on to do something nutty. They even offered him morsels from their lunches. "You're famous," Dorothy told him in his room one day. "I know," said Palmer, slumping, "but I don't want to be. I want to be nobody. I want to be invisible. If I was invisible, then Nipper would be too." Dorothy, for no apparent reason, started to giggle. She quickly clamped her hand over her mouth. "Sorry," she said. "I know I'm not supposed to laugh, but sometimes I can't help it. I keep thinking of you tickling your teacher." Another giggle sprouted. "It's just not you, Palmer." Palmer threw up his hands. I know! And wait till you see what happens in 2 days." Dorothy's eyes widened. "What?" "Miss Kiner said I won't have detention on the last day of school. I'll have to go home at the regular time. My mom will never let me wear my winter coat anymore in this weather, so I'm afraid Nipper's going to see me again coming home from school." Palmer paced about the room. "I have nightmares all day. I see Nipper landing on my head and Beans snatching him by his legs and—" He could never even say the rest of the sentence. He went over to Nipper, who was strutting along the booktops. "What are you going to do?" said Dorothy. Palmer stroked Nipper's smooth, glossy head. "Wear a mask?" Dorothy's hand shot to her mouth. "Oh, no." "Oh, yeah." With his fingertips, he lightly tickled Nipper's breast feathers. He discovered that Nipper loved this and would stay still for as long as he kept doing it. "Do you have a mask?" said Dorothy. "My elephant mask." Dorothy screeched. "Your elephant mask from Halloween with the trunk?" "Yeah." Both of Dorothy's hands clamped her mouth as if she were about to throw up. Her cheeks flushed. Her eyes bulged. She ran from the room and slammed the door. Palmer could hear her muffled sounds coming from the stairway. If he didn't know better, he would have thought she was sobbing. Minutes later she returned, wiping wetness from her cheeks, struggling to keep a straight face. "I'm sorry," she said. She joined Palmer in scratching Nipper's breast feathers. "I can't wait till school's over," said Palmer. "I know," said Dorothy. But I don't want it to be over because then it'll be closer to my birthday. I know, said Dorothy. It's all crazy. I almost get dizzy sometimes. I know, said Dorothy. Lightly, lazily, they tickled Nipper's feathers. Their fingers mingled. You know what? Said Dorothy. What? You're a hero. Huh? All this stuff you're doing. You're probably the naughtiest student there's ever been in our school, and you're doing it all to save him. Palmer frowned. That's no hero. I just live in the wrong town, that's all. The pigeons seemed to be looking at them separately, one with each orange eye. A faint murmur came from deep in his throat. You hear that? Said Dorothy. He's saying, that feels so good. Why would anyone want to shoot him? Said Palmer. Nobody's going to, said Dorothy. Palmer turned to her. But why would they want to? Dorothy stared back at him. She didn't have an answer. On the last day of school, wearing his elephant mask on the walk home, the trunk hanging down to his waist, Palmer was a sensation. The problem was keeping the mask on because first Beans, then everyone else had to yank on the trunk. Every time the mask was pulled off, Palmer covered his face with his hands. He imagined Nipper was circling overhead trying to spot him. At last he made it home. He collapsed onto his bed. Nipper marched up one of his legs and down the other. The bird's feet tickled, but Palmer was too worn out to laugh. He could smile, though, for school was over, finally. But another school was about to begin.